The villagers gathered around me.
He's here, the fortune of Jisan.
The man with the megaphone shouted, louder and louder, and before I knew it, the singing and the sound of gongs grew wild again. I followed Agent Bronze, ducking through the crowd to hide from the villagers, but it wasn't enough.
Is that person really going to get the golden rooster?
People who still didn't understand the situation were murmuring, while the villagers all rushed toward me, leaving everything else behind, some bowing to the ground and praying toward the mountain, and Baek Sahian had disappeared into the crowd. I pushed Agent Bronze and Assistant Manager Yoon behind me, trying to shield them from the villagers. But Agent Bronze stepped forward as if to face them.
Calm down. At this point, the chances are high that I won't be able to safely leave anyway, and it was clearly written in the manual what to do in this kind of situation.
It sometimes happens during rescue operations that one of the agents gets captured by the villagers. But unless it's the last day of the festival, don't charge in recklessly or go up against the whole village. You can always re-enter the village during the festival. What that means is you can come back with proper preparation. Don't let emotions get the better of you and waste a precious chance by causing a commotion. Act wisely and decisively. That way, the person who gets captured, those left behind, and those to be rescued can all escape the disaster alive.
Go, and quickly figure out a way to rescue me, then come back. That's the only way I'll survive.
I could see the struggle in Agent Bronze's eyes, a tug of war between emotion and rational judgment. But soon, rationality won.
I'll come back for you, no matter what.
Agent Bronze quickly handed me a 5-colored shoelace, which I stored in my inventory tattoo. In the worst-case scenario, if I risked disappearance or suicide, it would be my last resort to escape. Then Agent Bronze pushed his way through the crowd at frightening speed and ran for the entrance.
He's here, the fortune of Jisan.
At the same time, the villagers swarmed over me. It seemed I'd lost consciousness for a moment, and when I came to, I was lying on the wide, old-fashioned wooden floor of a house. Sliding doors on both sides of the square room. I saw a similar layout recently. It's that tile-roofed house. Assistant Manager Yoon was nowhere to be seen. It seemed she hadn't been captured with me. I looked down at my legs. Both my legs were tied with a gold rope. The gold rope ran out through a hole in one of the sliding doors. When I gave it a little tug, I felt some elasticity. It seemed fixed in place. The sliding door opened and people came in. One brought in a tray with festival food. The other carried a bottle of alcohol. The two bowed deeply, set down the neat food and drink. Then faint music began to play. It seemed that outside the building, a wild and frenzied festival was still going on, all night long. The two brought out a small raffle box and drew lots. Eventually, the one who pulled out a stick with a rooster's feather stayed behind, while the other lowered his head and left. The one left was the person who had brought the alcohol. The villager who had brought the drink, Baek Sahian, looked at me. I could guess who had set things up so I would draw the special prize.
Last night, did you make me draw the special prize stick from your pocket on purpose?
He definitely prompted me like that. That was the only unusual action that might explain why I, who'd drawn a blank yesterday, got the special prize today.
Was it to make me into someone who had already drawn the special prize to make me qualified? So that I would be guided to draw the special prize today.
A deep satisfaction flickered in Baek Sahian's eyes, and in a hoarse voice he spoke.
If that's what you think, so what?
So you've been planning this for a long time. You must have thought hard about whether this would work, and what to do if the agents failed to rescue you.
An ecstatic smile spread across Baek Sahian's lips.
I thought about it every day. What would I do if I ever got chosen? I never wanted to end up like that. Every time I slept in this shitty house, every time someone died, even when my older sister died.
He spat out the words like he was vomiting.
I always thought, I never want to end up like that. Fuck if I die, God or whatever.
Baek Sahian swallowed. There was a sense of unease and thrill in speaking a taboo.
This festival is for worshipping a god, then?
Baek Sahian practically screamed.
This is a ritual to make a god. They pick an auspicious day, make it a festival, and whoever's chosen is enshrined in the village shrine to become the god, the fortune of Jisan, who will free us from the truth of the world. They actually believe that crazy bullshit.
Is that really possible? There's really something here.
On the festival days, if no outsider wins the special prize, the villagers gather up the remaining sticks and draw them among ourselves. And if someone gets picked,
Baek Sehyun's face stiffened.
when the last day of the festival ends, they put a bag over your head like livestock and drag you to the village deity's shrine. They take you there and do something. I don't know. But there's something.
His face turned pale.
When the ones who were dragged out come back in the morning, their faces are different. They can't speak. They start preparing for next year's festival together. And when the festival they've prepared for is over, they hang themselves in the shrine. But then, every festival they appear again. Even though they died, they come back. They walk out of the shrine. They play in the traditional band. They're doing it now. Outside. I'm not going to end up like that. I'm not going to die. No way.
Baek Sehyun's eyes flashed with fear, anger, survival instinct, and a sense of relief that he'd made it, then settled down into rational calculation.
Now that you've been chosen, the festival and the raffle are over. I don't have to come back here anymore. Being trapped in this godforsaken Jisun village. Being held here, it's all over now.
Baek Sehyun muttered.
So now you're an insider and I can talk about it? Haha. I used to think anyone who started talking about this stuff first was just an idiot. But this is how it feels, huh?
The feeling of being in a situation no one else knows, having to swallow information you can't share. It's almost funny, but I think I understand better than anyone how Baek Sehyun feels right now. Honestly, I should be angry or anxious right now. I should be angry, disgusted, anxious, and desperate to find a way out. That would be natural, but strangely, I'm not. Instead, there's this odd sense of peace, the feeling that the complicated tomorrow and the near future have become a little hazier. Now that I'm trapped here, I don't have to think about anything else. No more wishing for a favor, no more worrying about Director Ho's binding, no more scrambling for information in a month, no more thinking about what to do with an agent after my cover's been blown. Is this just escapism? It's almost laughable, even absurd, that the threat of death makes me feel at ease, so I could speak calmly, without sympathy or anger.
I see. I understand.
Vigilance returned to Baek Sehyun's eyes.
Are you going to say I feel sorry for you? I understand, and then ask me to let you go, saying this isn't right?
Maybe. But I know what it's like to go through daily life in constant fear, unable to relax, always feeling like I might die at any moment.
He looked at me with a subdued expression.
Still, it's fortunate how you chose between the two agents.
Why do you want to die?
I'm not sure right now.
Haven't you ever wanted to die? Not even once?
Baek Sehyun suddenly replied.
I don't want to die. If you wanted to die, good for you. You can just stay here then.
There was no sign that he was trying to mock me, nor any indication that he was relishing in the fact that I'd been tricked by him. Even though he could easily make fun of me, it didn't seem to amuse him much. All I could sense was a selfish desperation for survival. He didn't seem to feel any guilt either. Rather, it looked like he had no room left in him for guilt. Come to think of it, it's always been that way. He's only ever desperately clung to whatever would benefit him, whatever would keep him alive. But at least, if he doesn't take pleasure in watching others suffer because of him, or find fun in tormenting people, there might be a different approach. Still, there's no way I'm going to just escape into reality until I die. In the end, I spoke up.
Sehyun-si, if there was a way for both you and me to survive, would you help?
You just have to go through more trouble than now, and take the risk of being found out. You're seriously asking if I'd do it? Crazy bastard.
Heavens, enough! Even from a narrative perspective, there's a limit. How can anyone be so rude? Ah, friend, why are there so many people these days who repay your kindness with betrayal? This bronze heart aches as well.
The plushie started talking again.
Allow me to help you. First, let's get out of here. Then let's show them what karma really means. Wouldn't that be thrilling and satisfying?
The plushie fell silent. I'll do it myself. Wouldn't that be more entertaining for you?
Well, I suppose it would be best for things to flow with the right support.
I finished my conversation with the plushie and looked at Baek Sehyun again. Since I didn't expect anything from him in the first place, I spoke with complete indifference.
But Sehyun-si, I'm going to die because of you. I'm only someone who came here to rescue you but couldn't because there was no way to do it. I'm dying because you pushed me into this spot.
How is this my fault?
Baek Sehyun's face twisted.
Did I fucking tell anyone to kill someone if they got the special prize? Did I shove someone into the shrine and kill them? Someone else does the killing. So what, am I just supposed to die instead? That
Raging and swearing brings misfortune. At the same time, both Baek Sehyun and I turned toward the sliding door. A muttering could be heard.
Raging and swearing brings misfortune. Raging and swearing brings misfortune. Those who forget disappear. Raging and swearing brings misfortune.
Baek Sehyun stared at the door with a face gone white. There was clearly nothing there, but the sound of the traditional band outside grew louder and louder. He went over to the opposite side of the door, crouched, and covered his head. It was hard to believe this was the same person who normally caused all kinds of trouble without hesitation. He was utterly powerless. Is this a trauma response? Maybe this would work. After a brief hesitation, I opened my mouth and spoke toward the sliding door.
I'm sorry. I was so flustered that I swore.
The muttering stopped.
That wasn't appropriate for the festival. I'll try to speak more politely from now on.
The sliding door stayed perfectly still. The sound of the traditional band resumed, gradually growing more distant, until it completely faded into the festival noise. He got up from the corner by the sliding door, drenched in cold sweat, and looked at me with a confused expression.
I just helped you not die again. Don't you feel even a little grateful?
So you're telling me, if I'm grateful, I should die instead?
You make it sound like saying, thank you would come at an unbearable price.
Baek Sehyun looked at me as if to say, "What are you even talking about?"
Do as you wish. Seems your life is very precious to you.
Then I looked down at my feet.
But my life is precious to me, too, even though I sometimes think about wanting to die.
After a long silence, Baek Sehyun finally spoke.
So what exactly is this way for both of us to live?
I slipped my still free hand into my pocket and rolled a silver badge around in my fingers. Because just now, after hearing Baek Sehyun's words, I realized what kind of ghost story this is. I'm going to plant doubt in their faith. God-making. Liberation from the world's truth, rituals shared only by a select few, resurrecting the dead, scapegoats. All of it pointed to one thing. This is a ghost story under the Church of the Luminous Unknown. Jisan Village's festival continued all night. Outsiders could sleep in any of the completely open village homes, enjoying free drinks and meat until morning. In the end, quite a few chose to stay rather than leave.
Oh, there's supposed to be some big event on the last day. Like, some kind of ritual, I guess?
What's that supposed to mean?
Dunno, but I'm gonna film it and post them as shorts.
The outsiders muttered idly, either staying up through the night or falling asleep drunk in any random room, and then with the sun beating down brightly on the last day.
The fortune of Jisan arrives.
At last, the ritual began. The traditional band pounded their drums, and the villagers lined up on either side, as if forming a path, creating a long corridor. From the tile-roofed house to the village shrine. And from the central tile-roofed house, at the start of this road, something finally emerged.
O chosen Anna deliver unto the blessing of Jisanoff the Countless speaks.
It was a massive human palanquin. 4 people, rooster feathers pinned to their chests, and their heads covered with plain cloth, carried someone upon it.
Hey, this is for real.
The outsiders chatted idly, only interested in the spectacle, but among them were those whose eyes glimmered, watching in secret. Assistant Manager Yoon Haj. The one who had been called that by Kim Soleum observed the person atop the palanquin and the movements of the villagers. At this rate, it looked like her task here, on behalf of the project team, would proceed smoothly. Her sharp gaze turned to the outskirts, toward the well on the edge of the village, surrounded by abandoned houses. That was the objective of her assignment. The agents of the Disaster Management Bureau still hadn't figured out exactly why the villagers left them alone near the well, or why it was relatively safe there. They'd even checked it when it wasn't festival season, only to find it just an ordinary blocked well. But this reporter knew the exact reason, and what needed to be investigated. That well had once been a passageway, connected to somewhere else, and during this strange festival, the entire village itself became a high-level zone of darkness, and sometimes the passage would come alive again, so she had to proceed with the investigation now. After glancing once at Kim Soleum, who was riding atop the human palanquin, the reporter quietly began to move. Not toward the well between the abandoned houses, but in another direction.
O chosen One deliver unto the blessing of Jesus of the countless speaks.
Meanwhile, the palanquin procession continued on. The traditional band opened the way, and as the palanquin passed, villagers bowed in reverence. Some staggered after it with feverish devotion. But they always kept a certain distance, as if coming closer was not permitted. The problem was, there were some for whom that rule didn't matter.
Wow, look, this is the first time in decades they've held this event.
A few outsiders, holding up their smartphones, came right up close. Those who were drunk or had lost their judgment didn't keep their distance, some even tapping the head-shrouded villagers carrying the palanquin. These people had only come for the free food and drink at the village festival, but the villagers didn't stop them. They only watched with smiling faces, eyes fixed anxiously on the safe progress of the palanquin.
Ooh, not bad for a countryside festival. They're pros, total pros.
The villagers didn't get upset. They simply watched with earnest eyes to make sure the palanquin reached its destination unharmed. Finally, the human palanquin reached the village shrine without incident and stopped. Those who'd been carrying it carefully lowered the raffle winner they'd been bearing on their shoulders. 2 of them approached the shrine. Then they cut the golden rope around the shrine. The golden rope fell to the ground. The 2 remaining people untied the golden rope around the feet of the one who'd ridden the palanquin and hung it up again at the shrine. Then the doors of the shrine were opened.
The doors are opening. Wow, look at that gold.
The golden rooster statue that had been the special prize was enshrined inside the village shrine, and its size was enormous.
Isn't that just gold-plated, though?
It sat atop a round wooden pedestal, right in the center of the shrine where the altar should have been. It was quite literally the size of a person. Apart from awe, greed sparkled in the outsider's eyes. Most of them hardly noticed that behind the gold, the shrine's original pole had been stuck upside down, just like the sticks in the lottery box.
O chosen One deliver unto the blessing of Jesus of the countless speaks.
The one who had ridden atop the palanquin finally moved. As the figure in white stood in front of the shrine, the villagers stepped forward one by one, covering the white robe with pieces of paper. The papers were densely inscribed with writing in both Hangul and Hanja. They were the villagers' names. And then, after 3 deep bows, they poured out a bottle of liquor over the top. As the sacred liquor washed over it, the ink on the papers began to run and the writing disappeared, seeming to seep into the robe itself.
May we freed from the toth world of fortune of Jesus chosen one. May we freed from the toth fortune of Jesus chosen one. May we freed from the of Jesus chosen one.
The villagers bowed, prayed, wept, raising their hands and crying out to the sky, pouring out old, deep terror and desperation. The intensity and desperation couldn't even be drowned out by the pounding of the traditional band.
Hey, this feels kinda off.
Most of the outsiders began to draw back awkwardly, finally sensing something was wrong.
Should we get a closer look at that gold statue? But what's this? There's this fragrant... Is that the smell of alcohol?
It was the moment someone holding up a smartphone stepped into the shrine. The golden rooster began to melt. As if making that very sound, the rooster melted, gold spreading through the groove in the floor of the shrine. Soon it touched the foot of the one who had dared to enter. The outsider, staring blankly down at his foot, opened his mouth. The smartphone fell to the floor.
The world is, we're nothing butone, inscribed, within it. I have value im interest imedin. What is this? What? Irium nim.
Madness began to spread like a contagion.
What's wrong with those people?
People on the edge of the crowd recoiled in shock, some even craning their necks to see better. But it was already too late. In the end, most people fell into confusion. Some screamed, others muttered senselessly, or just sat there staring blankly, their eyes emptied out. A scene where madness and eerie calmness coexisted, but the villagers paid them no mind. They'd already seen far too many outsiders fall prey to the truth revealed by the sacred liquor, too many destroyed by that terrifying revelation. To them, outsiders were nothing but outsiders, and the families of Jizan village, only they could escape such a fate, because at the end of this long Jizan festival, which they had prepared so devotedly for so many years, it would be only the chosen who had devoted themselves to the rite for decades, waiting for Jizan's fortune, who would be delivered.
A new pole will be erected in the shrine.
The clamor of gongs drowned out the frenzy. The chosen one, the raffle winner, walked calmly toward the shrine in the midst of this storm of madness. with the golden stick, the special prize, in hand. If they simply planted that small stick in the golden liquid left behind by their predecessor, they would themselves become the fortune of Jisan dissolving into the shrine. A sacrifice, or rather, a god, who would bring liberation from the terrifying truth of the world. The villagers would escape from this monstrous, cruel world, dodging calamity and reaching deliverance. It was a civil servant's flat voice.
This procedure is all wrong.
The chosen one looked at the golden stick in his hand and let out a sigh.
At this rate, you're all doomed. In your own words, you might say, misfortune will befall you.
A deathly silence fell. Then a wailing voice cried out.
The fortune of Jisun is trying to deceive us and run away.
The figure in white slowly raised both hands toward the sky.
But I know the truth.
Speaking in their language, he continued.
I was cleansed with sacred liquor and awakened to the truth of the world. I, who drew the golden stick and will be enshrined as the fortune of Jisan, already know. You have twisted the teachings. Maybe you read a few pages of an unknown scripture somewhere, or stole bits and pieces of doctrine and misunderstood it.
Moans and muttering from those who couldn't understand.
What did you think liberation from the truth of the world meant? Escaping from the cruel, painful, and unreasonable reality of this world, evading disaster under the protection of the fortune of Jisan, and living freely as the chosen exceptions.
The villagers looked up. Their actions betrayed agreement.
I thought so. In that case, let's begin here.
The sure knowledge he possessed. The most important doctrine of the Church of the Luminous Unknown.
There is no freedom in this world. This world belongs to Irium Nim. It holds meaning only when one is chosen by Irium Nim, and one must recognize this truth and cultivate and sow the seeds of origin in the world, striving to be worthy of that choice. Your free will is meaningless. Only the will and the selection of Irium Nim hold significance. Those too weak to accept this truth may seek escape through death, but that is no true salvation. There is no escape from Irium Nim. These words are liberation.
The chosen one, the strange figure in white, looked around at the villagers and asked,
Do you refuse to accept this? In that case, choose another auspicious day, and prepare another form of festival and ritual, because the fortune of Jisan you summoned by these means.
He pointed to himself. The fate of outsiders' disappearances and deaths, the sacrificial ritual disguised as a lottery. Cries and moans of no, impossible, we are tainted, we are impure broke out from all sides. But they could not kill the chosen one before them. If he died in this village, he would become the new god. That was the procedure. In the end, they simply had to let him go. The traditional band staggered. People collapsed everywhere. The village festival ended in chaos and ruin. And Kim Soleum, the chosen one who brought about this ending, who succeeded as always with his specialty of informational and psychological warfare, just watched with heavy eyes. I knew it would turn out. I looked around at the mad scene. This was indeed a ghost story under the Church of the Luminous Unknown, but it wasn't a place that had ever taught the true doctrine properly. They must have been experimenting, making this village perform a clumsy ritual so it would develop its own unique ghost story. To understand the process in detail, I needed Baek Sahyon's help. I had to figure out exactly how the ritual worked and what teachings they served. It was only possible because Baek Sahyon manipulated another villager who had drawn a golden stick, giving me enough time through the night to hear and analyze all of this. I didn't care to take it back anymore. It was pointless anyway. At any rate, I was able to clearly identify their errors. And since all my knowledge of the Church of the Luminous Unknown was real, the villagers were even more easily swayed. As for me, since I already knew what that so-called truth of the world meant, I wasn't affected at all. Of course, all of it was information I'd already read on the wiki. From now on, the villagers of Jisan will all argue over what's right, each believing what they want, fighting amongst themselves. If a split occurs, their unity will weaken, and a vulnerability will appear, so the Disaster Management Bureau should be able to take action before next year's festival. So, before this commotion settles, I should slip away too. The festival is over. The village has rejected me as the raffle winner, so, probably, I'll be safe even if I leave the village. I tried to walk out of the shrine. A ripple of golden liquid spread from my step. This must be the golden rooster. From the color, it seemed that the round wooden base beneath it hadn't melted, so it was probably still on the floor. Only the gold melted. I stopped in my tracks. The ground was shaking. No, it split open, and the golden liquid poured down below. I threw myself out of the shrine, barely escaping the collapsing floor in time, and between the cracks in the round wooden base, a transparent liquid surged up. The golden rooster statue was a weight stone, and the round wooden board wasn't its base at all. That golden statue had been pressing down something buried beneath the shrine, preventing it from surfacing. A gigantic jar of liquor, and inside something had been sleeping, bound. It awoke upon hearing my true doctrine. The sound of countless legs dragging across the floor. A long body burst out from the transparent liquid. A thing writhing, covered in countless legs. A massive centipede that had been inside the liquor jar. But all those legs were human arms, palms pressed together. The face, with flat features resembling a human's, moved its holes as if mimicking a face. It resembled the depraved, heretical monks from old folk tales. These were characteristics I could recognize, a ghost story that transmits the teachings of the Church of the Luminous Unknown. It is said that, upon being recognized by a certain clergy member who was inspired by the power of stories inhabiting lowly creatures, this entity began to foster mutated followers throughout the world. But now, its body was already half rotten. The arms protruding outside the shrine were corroded by liquor, by the liquid. There is a folktale that, in a rural village, the teachings of this being were misunderstood, leading to its capture and confinement within a liquor jar, with the villagers using the resulting liquor for their rituals. This was the entity that had brought the doctrine here. To appease it, they placed chicken symbols, its favorite prey, around the village. But apparently, it hadn't done any good. That thing, having fallen deep into the doctrine of the Church of the Luminous Unknown, cannot be reasoned with or communicated with. It only delivers doctrinal teachings and enlightenment. Truths that cannot be described, violently. There is no nirvana, no liberation.
This is the truth of the world. Eternal liberation approaches. At the end of the degenerate era, offer up your pain, loss, and madness. Spit out your bones, and you will gain eternal life. That is the true form of the way, and it is the law with priceless worth.
Do I really have to? I don't even know how many times this has happened. How long do I have to keep doing this? In my head, I tell myself I just have to hold out for 1 month, just win my wish, but as I listen to that centipede's horrific preaching, a part of me is crushed by the thought. Does it really matter? Would it really matter if my body was crushed? A large hand gripped my shoulder. A determined face, shining eyes. Agent Bronze was there.
I've come back on time, just as promised. And I told you, I'll come back with a way to save you.
He squeezed my shoulder.
According to the rules, in this kind of supernatural disaster, 2 agents are always dispatched to rescue the requester.
Agent Choi's blade drove down through the shrine's roof, and Dokebi fire erupted ferociously.